We're talking college sports in the Deep South where college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it is Kennard Vernon Stewart. We are here on Vernon Speak Sports Auburn on the podcast where we're going to be talking about some more impact players as we have been doing for the last couple of days this week. So far, we've talked about guys like Seth Williams, man. Really like him. Really think he's going to do some big things at that slot X9 position for the Auburn Tigers. Also, we talked about Owen Pappoe, who we feel is going to be a very, very impactful linebacker for the Auburn Tigers. Will probably, more than likely, because of the weight gain, be an immediate impact for the Auburn Tigers, either at the Will or the Sam linebacker. I don't really think he will push KJ Britt out of the way at the Mike linebacker. I think Auburn is pretty solid with KJ Britt as the Mike linebacker. But more than likely, if there is going to be a push from Owen Pappoe, it will be for that Will linebacker, which is the weak side linebacker for those of you guys who don't know. Also, we talked about in depth the linebacker position from 2018. At times struggled along the edge, struggled, from sideline to sideline at times, fighting off blocks, getting to tackles. And we feel that Auburn will be a little bit more athletic at the linebacker position because of the upgrade speed-wise. Because if we think about how the game has elevated, say, since 2010, it's the game is a lot faster. Now, let's just say you take Darrell Williams, Deshaun Davis, and Montavious Atkinson and put them, say, in like 2013, Auburn would have been an elite linebacker core, in my opinion, for that time. But the game has gotten faster, so you have to have faster linebackers to especially attack the edge. Because see, what would happen with Auburn, especially, it was just so evident in the Mississippi State game. You crash down the defensive line and you attack the edge. And after a while, you start to open things up, and that's when the Auburn Tigers defense began to become exposed. Because if you look at it statistically in 2018, starting with the Mississippi State game, the defense took somewhat of a step back, allowing well over 400 yards per game, 28 points per game, and the offense really didn't help out with the time of possession because the defense stayed on the field for an ungodly length of time. So we feel that Auburn will be much, not necessarily, I wouldn't say much improved, but will be a lot more elite as far as talent at the linebacker position, although highly inexperienced. We talked in great depth about Owen Pappoe, like I said before, how he just has such great instincts for the game. He's going to prove to be very talented, gained some weight along the offseason, up to 222 pounds. It's no telling. He probably will hit that 230 mark by the time the season starts. So in continuing to talk about some impact players for the Auburn Tigers, we're going to continue to dig into the 2019 recruiting class for the Auburn Tigers, War Eagle. Now, one guy that really stuck out to me when I was thinking about who I was going to talk about today is Zion Puckett. As a matter of fact, one of the subscribers kind of suggested, hey, man, when you going to talk about Zion Puckett? I'm like, hell yeah, we're going to talk about him today. When you think about a guy like Zion Puckett, very, very decorated athlete out of Spalding High School. If any of y'all know where Spalding High School is, it's down in Griffin, Georgia. Griffin, Georgia is a small little city that fits right in between Atlanta and Macon, Georgia. A lot of good athletes come from that area. Zion Puckett is actually one of them. Receiving offers from folks all over the country. Florida State, Tennessee was actually the first to offer Zion Puckett. Got an offer from LSU, Alabama, the usuals. But wound up committing to Auburn. And this turns out to be a very good get. It's actually very good that Zion Puckett didn't hit the transfer portal, because Auburn would have been in deep trouble, in my opinion, depth-wise at the cornerback position, already losing Cameron Kelly out of Chesapeake, Virginia, citing family issues. Decides to go. Decides to go back home. Well, not go back home, but be closer to home at UNC, University of North Carolina Tar Heels. So that actually took away some potential depth for the Auburn Tigers, who kind of sort of have some issues as far as cornerback depth coming into the 2019 season. Because if we really look at this thing, we look at the boundary cornerback position for the Auburn Tigers. You know, you have already a cornerback in Noah Igbenogany, who we feel will be, give some all SEC type production this year, transferred over from the wide receiver position. But when you look behind him at the field cornerback, you have Devin Barrett. Devin Barrett has actually been shuffling positions ever since he's been at Auburn. And let's just say Noah Igbenogany goes down, you're looking at Devin Barrett, and that's just not a position that you want to be in going into the 2019 season. So with the athleticism of Zion Puckett, he really attacks the football. He covers very well. He is going to be an important piece to this puzzle, assuming that his skill set transfers over to SEC Power 5 football play. He is going to have to be a very important piece, because Noah Igbenogany right now is the only, in his position, the field cornerback, is really the only guy that, is solid in that position, in my honest opinion. That's why Auburn did kind of hit the transfer portal looking for a cornerback to solidify some depth, especially after Cameron Kelly left. So it's going to be very important for Zion Puckett to come in and have an immediate impact to provide some stability at the field cornerback position. Now, also from a reserve standpoint, because you definitely want to rotate some quality guys out. That's another thing that's really hurt Auburn in the past is, yeah, your first 11 is pretty good, but then after that, the talent starts to taper off. That's when you really, really begin to build a solid program to where you're too deep with 4 or 5 star talent. So it's going to be very important. Like I said before, that's why I'm talking about Zion Puckett, even though he hasn't even put on a uniform for Auburn. But he's going to be a very, very impactful player because of his presence. We need him. Absolutely need him. You don't have you have Devin Barrett, but at the same time, you need someone as well that has experience, solid experience playing the position to provide some reserve status or maybe even test some things. He could even possibly test Javaris Davis for the boundary cornerback. So, and this guy is super talented at 0.94%. Not quite a 5-star athlete, but a very strong 4-star athlete in this recruiting class for the Auburn Tigers. So when we look at the totality of the circumstance, of course, you have in the secondary Jeremiah Denson, Smoke Monday, Christian Tutt. You have a lot of talented athletes. But the unfortunate part about it going into 2019, they're not very deep. They're not very deep. And especially at that field cornerback position, that's going to have to have some help this particular fall. Okay? So those are the things that we're talking about, and why recruiting, consistently deliberate recruiting, is going to be vitally important for Auburn moving forward. And that could possibly, let's just say Gus does have a great year and retains his status as Auburn's coach. He has to continue to build and understand what it takes to win consistently in the SEC. Instead of having, like, say, a great year in 2017, tapering off for a couple of years, and then having another great year. See, the way you continue to have the great years is to have continuity and great recruiting, not the lazy recruiting. Because, see, the thing with Devin Barrett being Noah Igbenogany's backup, and even Noah Igbenogany actually being a starting cornerback, is actually kind of sort of lazy recruiting. Because you got 2 guys at the field cornerback position who were former either running backs or wide receivers. So that's where the recruiting has to continue to upgrade for the Auburn Tigers. And you go into the 2019 season, a successful year for Auburn will help in continuing good recruiting classes for the Tigers. Now, Auburn got some help with Big Cat Weekend, it seemed like things started to get a lot better for the Auburn Tigers after Big Cat Weekend, because you started to see the offensive line recruiting pick up, something Auburn is definitely going to need, especially after this year. You're talking about losing all 5 starters after this year. So you're definitely going to have to upgrade offensive linemen. So you got to have some elite athletes coming in there. And also the cornerback position is one. The secondary for Auburn is going to be, it's solid, but you need to go ahead and start recruiting some good talent there so you can have some continuity down the road. All right, guys, let me know what y'all think about Zion Puckett and his importance to Auburn, even though he hasn't even strapped it on yet. Go ahead and leave a comment, like this video, subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Here on Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, it's always great to be a Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.